Hello, this is Tia, and welcome to another video. Today we're doing next couple of chapters of Hermitcraft Genesis. We're in Skizz's perspective, and yeah, we're over halfway down through the this book 2, and yeah, we're almost there. Like a couple more episodes, like this episode, and next week with next episode should do it, depending on how long the chapters are, and how long it takes to read them. Yeah, let's get right into it. I guess you guys don't mind spoilers. Like, the biggest spoiler for this is you'll see. Chapter 15. A large 2-story house stood before him as Skizz gazed up at the wooden structure. A forest of large oak and tall birch trees stretched like a fence on either side of it. The windows were curtained and closed. Not a single light was on. Skizz blinked. He recognized this house. He'd seen it before. How? He took a step on one of the stairs leading up to the spruce patio. The damp, molding wood creaked under his weight. Everything seemed quiet, vacant of life. Unease sunk into him as Skizz took the next step. His legs feeling like lead, dread coating every fiber of his being. What would he find here? He arrived at the dark oak door. The door, he knew well, would open to whatever mysteries were on the other side. He reached his hand toward the doorknob, feeling the gold and metal cool to touch. He turned the knob, pushing open the wooden barrier as he blinked at the darkness within. Before him was a hallway, with clothes and toys strewn all over the floor. Books were lying face down on the dusty hardwood floor. Silence was almost deafening. Where was he? Skizz shook his head, fighting back the urge to turn and run. He wasn't a coward. He knew that much. He wasn't afraid to face whatever threat lay in wait in the darkness. Was he? Skizz cleared his throat, hearing his voice bouncing off the walls, floating through the house like he spoken from a megaphone. Hello? Is anyone home? He took a step inside, flinching when the floor creaked loudly under his foot. He frowned. The outside of the house looked nothing like what he saw inside. The exterior looked almost brand new, like someone had only just bought it. But here, it's almost as if someone had left it in a hurry. Hello? Is anyone there? Skizz called again, both feeling hopeful, yet dreading what might call back to him. Who? He took another step as the door slammed shut behind him. Skizz yelped in surprise, turning to try the door. It was locked. Of course it was locked. Had he been reading too many mystery thriller novels lately? I have no idea. I'm just making a joke. I don't actually know if he has. He shook his head again. What was he talking about? He wasn't much of a reader. A pang of grief filled him as the thought lingered in his mind. He used to read to them before bed, Skizz whispered, letting the words sink in. There was no response as he arrived at what he assumed was the kitchen. The pantry closet door was hanging loosely off its hinges. Cupboards were wide open. Pots, pans, plates, and other silverware littering the floor, most of them smashed to bits. Something happened here, Skizz shuddered, seeing the peeling paint from the walls, some of which had held cracks. Was there a fight in here? A broken chair laid against the wall, split nearly in half as Skizz gulped. There had to have been a fight here. Suddenly, he heard a cry from upstairs, a cry that was both familiar and unfamiliar, sending a chill through his spine. He instinctively turned and... and ran towards the staircase, heading up to the second floor. The cry turned into screaming. Fear filled him as he ordered his legs to climb faster. I'm coming! I'm coming! Skizz shouted, charging up the staircase. No matter how many stairs he climbed, there always seemed to be many more to ascend. The screaming pierced his heart as tears filled his eyes. He had to do something. He had to get there before... Suddenly, the staircase disappeared from underneath him as Skizz looked down. Below him was a black, endless abyss. When he saw it, he began to plummet into the darkness, screaming as he looked up. Screams above drowned out by the eerie echo of his own screams before his eyes snapped open. He gasped for air as he sat bolt upright, finding himself in the sleepover room, surrounding his body. That's the wrong, tense there, surrounded by sleeping companions. So what? Everything okay? Liam's voice whispered. Skizz looked over, seeing the boy picking up a shulker box full of potions. Not far from him was Impulse, who looked up from the brewing stand toward his best friend. Yeah, just a nightmare. Skizz sighed, pushing his covers aside. Who's going? I've agreed to you, Impulse, Green, and Scar, Liam replied, along with their respective protectors. No Gem and Pearl? No beat-ups? Skizz frowned. We need them here, Liam replied. Beat-ups can help Tango with the gadget if we're gone longer than anticipated. Gem and Pearl can help organize the group here with Claire and Matthias, in case any of those men think it's a good idea to attack. You think they will? Skizz got to his feet, noticing both Green and Scar's beds were empty. Blake and Caleb were also not in their beds either. I don't know what to think right now, Liam admitted, nodding over at Impulse before gesturing for Skizz to follow them. Skizz did as he was told, finding his missing 4 friends waiting in the main room. Are we ready? Blake's eyes glanced over the group. Ready as we'll ever be, Green said matter-of-factly, patting the spot where his gas blaster must be hidden. He turned to Liam. I've checked in with Nettie 10 minutes ago. She hasn't felt anything yet. Good. Let's hope it stays that way. Liam nodded grimly. Skizz followed his friends outside, watching as Caleb helped Scar out of his wheelchair as Blake folded the chair up for him, pocketing it away. Yes, it's foldable. I have to find some way to make sense, okay? Don't worry about it. I take some liberties. Pocketing away as the hermit leaned heavily against his protector. He was greeted by a cheery smile from Scar. The group leapt to the skies as Skizz followed shortly behind, Impulse and Blake, the bright blue morning air above them. The flight over the forest was uneventful. Not a clue to be seen of Dr. Rhinestone or Defect Cause members asking for trouble. The forest itself was quiet, even from the usual wildlife he was used to. Stay close to your charge while you cross over, Liam warned once everyone had landed in front of the portal, checking the coordinates before he seemed satisfied. Skizz reached over and grabbed Impulse's arm, grinning excitedly at his friend. Impulse returned a weak smile, taking Blake's hand. Skizz watched as Green and Liam went first, followed by Caleb carrying Scar through the portal. As the 3 of them approached, Skizz closed his eyes, feeling the light wash over him like a warm embrace, almost beckoning him to come with it. To stay. He stumbled to the other side, blinking as he took in the woods surrounding the small little clearing he stood in. This is it? Skizz frowned. Wait until we get there. Impulse smiled at his friend, pulling away from his grip. He pointed over to the birch and spruce checkered path. We go that way, to the town, and who knows where after that. How do we even find them? Green asked, while Liam scanned the surrounding shadows. That's what I want to know, an unfamiliar growl replied as Skizz froze. Shadows stepped out from behind the tall oak trees, letting the golden sunlight peeking through the leaves. Not leaves. The plural of leaf. To illuminate their camouflage uniforms. Skizz counted 12 men, twice as many as him and his friends. A glint of metal flashed as the man lunged, Skizz heard a scream as he scrambled for his sword, just as he was tackled to the ground by one of the men. "Get off me, jerk!" Skizz growled, struggling to push off the man as he strained, noticing there were dark red bubbles wafting off the man. "We can't have people like you trying to intervene, now can we?" The man sneered, pinning the hermit down as he leaned closer. What even brings you here? Trying to save that so-called hero?" "I could ask the same of you," Skizz snapped, giving one last push, grunting as he shoved the man off him, scrambling to his feet as he extended his sword. The man chuckled as Skizz marched toward him. "Think you can take on one of us? All of us? Forget it. You either cooperate or you'll suffer the consequences. The only one suffering consequences will be you," Skizz snapped, pointing the tip of his sword at the man's throat. "Skizz, behind you!" Impulse's voice exploded amongst chaos. Skizz whirled around as the second man charged toward him. Sword raised, Skizz yelped, dodging out of the way, his sword clashing against the shining iron metal of his attacker. Was the blade enchanted? His attacker smiled coldly at the hermit, his dark eyes narrowing at his target. "I don't believe I've heard from the likes of you for a while. I show up where I'm needed," Skizz said flatly, gasping as someone tackled him from behind as he groaned, falling to the ground. He struggled to get up as his sword was ripped from his grasp. "Seriously, you again?" "What can I say? What works once can work again," the first attacker taunted. Skizz looked up in time to see Impulse and Blake trying to fight back three of the men, while two of them were cornering Caleb. Skizz spotted Liam and Grian not far from where Blake and Impulse were standing. Grian doing his best to shoot the fireballs, already having taken down half the men, while Liam shielded him. "I'm afraid you and your friends are coming with us. Perhaps you can help us with something." "Help you?" Skizz spat, grunted at the man pinned. "Ow. Need him in the back?" "Ugh. I don't know." Need him. "Ow. Need him in the back," pinning him down. "I'd rather fight a raging squirrel than help the likes of you." "I think you will once you know the truth," the man sneered. "What truth? That you kidnapped and tortured innocent people because you believe them to be traitors?" Skizz scoffed. "I saw what your friends did to Jem. You don't need our help to get what we want." "That's the thing, we do." The second man knelt in front of the hermit. "Not that you would understand or care. You're just a loyal friend, a companion to traitors. We'll get what they deserve soon enough. We'll get what we want." "I highly doubt it." Skizz narrowed his eyes, just as he heard a scream, followed by a rocket. Skizz whipped his head around, his eyes widening as Caleb fell to the ground, as one of the men pushed him aside, grabbing Scar by the wrist and launching him as he launched himself into the air, dragging the hermit up with him. "Scar!" Grian screamed, yelping in pain as one of the men slipped past Liam, swiping at the hermit, who attempted to duck away. "No, you don't!" Impulse growled, pulling out his own rackets before he too was tackled to the ground with a grunt. "Doubled up!" Skizz gasped, struggling against the two men hovering over him. "I suggest you give up now while you still have a chance to make it out of here alive." The man kneeling before Skizz rose to his feet, raising his hands, as the valley grew still, apart from Impulse's groans and Grian's whimper of pain, as one of the men slammed him to the earth. Liam helplessly watching behind two other attackers. "You're outnumbered. I'd advise a swift surrender, or Scar might suffer more harm because of your ignorance." "Where are you taking him?" Impulse demanded. His eyes were wide as he saw Skizz pinned to the ground. The hermit squirmed, trying to free himself, but it was no use. "That's of no concern to you," the man replied. "This place belongs to us now, and each of you are under arrest until further notice." "No one is going anywhere," Caleb said firmly, holding something in his hand as he launched a crossbow, A firework hurtled toward the man as Skizz closed his eyes, the explosion ripping through the air and the man screamed. Skizz opened his eyes again just as Caleb knocked one of the men he'd been fighting in the head with the crossbow before reloading it. Anyone else? How about a fireball? Blake offered, pulling something out of his pocket as Impulse rose to his feet. His attacker now still unconscious, his head smoking, with a hint of red flames in his hair. Do you really want more of your friends to get hurt? One of the men taunted. Skizz could just about see Grian reaching desperately for his fallen gas blaster, tears filling his eyes. Skizz frowned. Was Grian feeling Scar's fear right now? Were they hurting him already? Boiling with inner fire, Skizz slammed his arm backward, yanking the man on top of him off balance as he flew off him. The hermit scrambled to his feet, grabbing his sword as Blake aimed the fire blaster at the man hovering over Grian. And who made that decision? Blake challenged, raising an eyebrow. But before he could fire, a fireball illuminated the man from behind as he screamed in pain, falling off Grian as the young hermit groaned. I hit him! I can't believe it! I actually hit him! A familiar voice cheered just behind the tree line as a smile formed on Skizz's face. The last two men turned away and hightailed it out of there, Liam standing alone for a moment before he was suddenly at Grian's side, helping the hermit to his feet. Kate? Impulse raised an eyebrow. Blake lowered the fire blaster, also sharing a perplexed expression. Did you follow us? Maybe. Kate stepped out of the darkness. She wore brand new, shining, chanted armor, her dark green eyes like blazing inferno. Across her shoulder rested a gas blaster she had used, which was still smoking. I noticed you guys were planning on leaving, and I decided I wanted to tag along. Well, it's a good thing you did, Liam nodded. The girl beamed. But you still should have told us first. Entering a portal alone isn't safe, even for you. The smile faded. I was fine. And it's a good thing that you were, Caleb replied. But you have to remember that there are ways to pull people off course if someone nefarious enough wanted to. What if Friendstone had taken the opportunity to snatch you? Kate lowered her head. I'm sorry. I didn't think. Well, then let's put that brain to good use, Impulse said quickly. They've taken Scar, and we need to find him. I already know where he is, Green whispered softly, wiping more tears from his eyes. Liam reached down, picking up the hermit's fallen gas blaster, handing it to him. They want to hurt him. They want something, and they think he can give them what they want. Then let's put a stop to it, Impulse said. Skizz nodded, picking up his fallen weapon and stashing it away. We've already taken care of 10 of the 12 men. Maybe there won't be as many waiting for us. We need to hurry, Green said, his voice sounding more steady and confident, readjusting the straps of his elytra wings before pulling out his rockets. He's under the park, where Gerald took me and Impulse last time, too. Liam put a hand on the hermit's shoulder when he trailed off. Green's bottom lip trembled slightly, but the hermit stood firm. Then let's go. Okay, let's continue. Chapter 16. Skizz stumbled to a standstill as he landed in the middle of the park. Surrounding him were his friends and two monuments, or memorials. One was blue, while the second was green. Skizz stepped toward the structures, reading the text on the signs. In memory of Benji and Corey. Skizz looked away, trying to ignore the next line of them being beloved dogs. Jem had mentioned that Stampy had lost some dogs during a battle with his target, which resulted in Stampy destroying the clone machine. I don't see any guards in sight, Liam noted, scouting the area cautiously. Where do you think the entrance to the hideout would be? Maybe in the tunnel over there? Green pointed. Skizz blinked, looking at the brightly lit, colorful glass tunnel that led down to a nether portal. Sam did mention there was some empty space where someone could potentially have a hideout. Impulse frowned, looking over at Liam, who nodded. Are any of them redstoners? Liam pondered, walking toward the tunnel. Skizz and the others followed him, stopping short as Kate pointed. There, on the ground! Is that a stone button? The girl asked excitedly. So it is, Impulse mused thoughtfully, glancing over at Green. Want to do the honors? Me? Green raised an eyebrow. I mean, somebody has to test it. Impulse smirked. Green returned the smile, bounding over to the button, pressing it quickly before scrambling backward. Pistons whirred to life as the door opened, revealing a staircase leading downward. Well, this is it, Caleb said softly, looking down at the tunnel. This is where they took him? Yeah, Green confirmed, fidgeting with one of his sleeves of his red sweater. Preparing something. Scar's getting nervous. Sorry. It's okay, Impulse replied. Let him know we're coming. They have. Green lifted his chin. But they're going to start soon. Then let's go. Liam stepped forward before looking back. Blake and Caleb, do you want to stay up here as lookout? You sure? Blake frowned. It could be dangerous down there. It'd be more dangerous if their backup was able to come from behind. Liam smiled. Of course, Blake nodded, glancing over at Caleb. Let's hide behind one of those benches or bushes. Okay, Caleb replied, looking over at Liam. You'll get him out? We will, Impulse said confidently. Those guys made a big mistake by taking him. Skizz grinned at his friend's determination, taking the charge down the stairs, his eyes scanning the walls, wondering if there were any cameras installed. Even if there were, it wouldn't make much of a difference. The end of the staircase opened up to a long hallway, with a stretch of doors on either side of the hall, and one on the end. Iron doors, Skizz noted. He shuddered. These were prison cells. Was Scar in one of these cells? Stampy? Sam? I hate how familiar this is, Impulse muttered, standing beside Skizz. Looks like every other hallway we've seen that Mr. A's men would have. You even have the prison doors perfectly symmetrical. Symmetry. 5 blocks apart, Skizz counted. Yep, Impulse said sourly. Come on, we need to find it before they start their interrogation, Green insisted, pushing past the hermits and running down the hall before stopping in his tracks, his eyes growing wide as faces appeared in the one of the iron door windows. Green? What are you doing here? One of them asked softly. Impulse rushed forward, reaching the cell door as he flipped the lever. You two okay? Are you hurt? We're fine. A boy stepped out into the hallway as Impulse checked him over before looking at the other teen. A girl. I don't think they care too much about us, since we were hired help. We're too new to be considered traitors. I'm so sorry, Green put his hands to his mouth. You shouldn't have had to go through stuff like that. It's better than leaving Sam to face it alone, the girl snapped. Aiden and I weren't about to let them take him and let us go free. They feared we'd cause trouble if they did. How did this happen? Where's my brother, Stampy? Liam asked, his brow furrowing. The two teens exchanged anxious glances. Aiden spoke up. Stampy and Squishy left with the helpers. Left? Liam's eyebrows raised. It's a target attack the day after Stampy's visit to Wonderburg, Aiden explained. He lured Stampy into another trap, and the helpers were just barely able to help him escape. We were sent to guard the doghouse when Stampy went to get Barnaby, but when he came back, he announced that he was leaving. He granted us permission to return to the school, but after seeing them off, Sam, Aiden, and I went to leave, but they ambushed us. The girl lowered her head. We hadn't informed Tom we were even coming yet because Rose warned us not to. Rose? Liam's eyes widened. She nodded. Apparently she arrived just in time to help Stampy against those traitors. Stampy promised as a target he would leave Lovely World, that he didn't have to prove anything to his hired aid, but The guy there wouldn't back down, even threatening to hurt Barnaby. Kate gasped for her. He did not! Rose took care of him, though, and calmed down the situation. The girl replied. She disappeared not long after the incident, after talking with Riverdash. Why would she want to talk to her? Kate narrowed her eyes. Rosa asked Viva to find a way to ensure that no one could ever find Stampy again, as it was his wish. The girl looked up at them sadly. She agreed, but did something to our communicators. That explains that, Pulse nodded, patting the girl on the shoulder. I'm glad you both are okay, Aaron. But they took Sam down the hall. Aiden pointed behind him. We heard a lot of loud voices over the last 10 minutes. And now it's quiet. Green swallowed. Did you see where they took Scar? Kate asked quickly, taking a step closer. The teens exchanged glances again before shaking their heads. Aiden spoke up this time. No, but we should hurt him. A smile formed on Green's face as the hermit looked further down the hall. Pulse, do you remember the doorway they had me taken to? Yeah, Impulse said quickly, turning to the kids. You two get upstairs and wait with Blake and Caleb. You'll be safe there. We're not leaving without Sam, Aaron said defiantly. You won't be, Impulse replied calmly. Skizz nodded. We'll get him out. Skizz stated. We'll get both of them out. Be careful then, Aiden urged, his eyes widening in alarm. There's like 6 guys down there. We heard several voices. We will, Liam assured them. Skizz looked away, noticing Impulse and Green heading down the hall, stopping halfway door. Wow. Halfway down before activating a hidden door. Here we go. Skizz ran to catch up to his friend. Where is she? Catch up to his friend. Hearing footfalls behind him. Suddenly, Skizz heard a muffled cry, freezing him in place as Green's eyes widened. Scar! Green bolted down the stairs, Impulse right behind him. Skizz had no choice but to follow, unsure of what they might find below. What horrible things they do it to the hermit. Alas, I think I'm going to end that here. Seems like a good spot to stop. And then next week we can finish chapter 17 and 18. And then, yeah, we're on book 3, which, yeah, will be interesting. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And of course, sorry about that revelation, but it honestly makes sense with the story that's going on because, well, yeah, Randstone's doing stuff with Gerald, and Gerald's lives are still alive and well, and Rose is now uprooted from leadership, so there's a new head of the cause, and everything is just chaos at this moment. And yeah, it's very possible Brian's storyline could definitely look into that, because like there's this storyline, and then there's the one going on at the school. It's like I have that in the back of my mind, thinking about where I want to go with that. But it is definitely an interesting idea that I do want to do, but yeah. You just gotta figure it out, because, like, there's more than just one thing happening. Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. And I'll see you guys in the next one, whenever that might be. Goodbye.